Here we go into action with Billman Performance Superstock Eliminator, round 1. Top qualifier in the Superstock Eliminator bracket, the Jack Brothers Double B Gas Supercharged Small Block Chevy Statesman. Stephen Jack running the car, he's behind the wheel. This car runs a supercharged 345 cubic inch Buick engine. They top qualified with a 7.8 second pass. The national record for their class is an 8:36. The Jack Brothers #1 qualifier. There's an uneven number of cars in the first round, so the top qualifier gets the bye run.
And what a handy way to earn a living too for a man in this particular game. The Stephen Jack is of course an engine builder by profession.
Stephen Jack, top qualifier in Billman Performance Superstock Eliminator at the 1991 Nationals. There's that big supercharger working hard. He's the line with a big wheel stand. He's on a bye run, but he's still going to run it hard, using up a little bit of his lane, starting to fume a little bit, and runs under the national record, 7.96, 171.30 mile an hour in the fulcrum suspension lane. Under the national record on a bye run in the first round, 0.393 under that record, and that'll be the first leg of a new record in Double B Gas. Absolutely fantastic performance in the first round. Here we go with the muffler shop car from Mackay, Brian Purcell. He's got a 331 Camaro running a C-Gas. Here's Donna Sisma.
Donna Sisma in the Camaro, the Chev-powered Camaro, 305 cubic inches. She's a housewife slash secretary, she says, sponsored by Aussie Trackwear and Phil Jack. Donna Sisma in the Camaro.
Donna's running in the B-modified sedan class. These cars are restricted to single 4-barrel carburetor and a flap-tapped camshaft, whereas we see in the other lane Brian Purcell running gas class, unlimited engine modifications, and much more freedoms in the body chassis department. We're talking handicap racing here. Superstock is handicapped on the national record for the class, a 9.19 second handicap for the blue Camaro, 10.54. We see Donna Sisma with the handicap start, leaves the line hard. 0.37 reaction time is a red light for Donna Sisma.
And that's a win for Brian Purcell in the Camaro Chev 333.
That's an upset. Donna Sisma had qualified very well under the record in the afternoon qualifying sessions yesterday. She's red lighted away her chances and is out of Superstock for the Nationals. More supercharged action in Superstock. A pair of blown gases. #2 qualifier in the 57 Chevy, Victor Bray. Huge crowd here at Willowbank Raceway. Applaud, cheer. They're all on their feet for this car. Victor.
And racing against Jen Godellis, the HQ Holden, as Victor Bray just comes back up to the line in the 57 Chev. And what a burnout. Setting up quite a smoke screen there. You really couldn't see him as he disappeared. Coming back up to the line now. He'll be running up against John Godellis in the HQ Holden.
John Godellis is running a small cubic inch Holden V8 engine with the supercharger. He's been running very, very well in his double C gas class with this total image. 8.9 seconds is the national record for double C gas. 8:36 for double B. We have a handicap start going to the Holden of 0.54 of a second. John Godellis will get the start. Victor Bray in that awesome 57 Chevy. And what a little Holden engine in the HQ. Victor Bray with a huge 492 cubic inch aluminium Keith Black.
And what a brute of a thing that big 57 Chev is. we can see there, plenty of smoke every time he drops the clutch, and the terminal speed of this car must be phenomenal.
And it's an extremely heavy car. It comes in at around 3,800 pounds. So the horsepower required to move it into the 7-second vicinity is huge. The Pacific Performance Chevy. Here they come. There's John Godellis. He's got a handicap start and he knows he's going to need every single bit of it. Edging into the beams now.
Just waiting for the lights to come down the tree now. Good shot of the Holden, and in the background the 57 Chev, 492 cubic inches. The Chevrolet in the Egypt lane. And we're away. The Holden blast away. The Chev's out after him.
John Godellis, red lights, tried too hard. Left 4,000ths of a second too soon, but look at Victor Bray, brings up a 790, 173.95 mile an hour, under the national record. We move on with the first round of Superstock. We've got Jerry Cooper in the Advanced Engine Performance A modified sedan. And over there we've got Dave Tucker driving the Tucker and Newlands Tirana.
Jerry Cooper in the Statesman, Chev powered, 480 cubic inches, sponsored by Advanced Engine Performance, and that's the Tirana of Dave Tucker. Chev powered and just leaps off the line. Dave Tucker with the Tirana, 355 cubic inches. And number 498 driven by Jerry Cooper, the big Statesman, Chev-powered Statesman, the speed shop proprietor.
And Jerry Cooper running a modified sedan. He's restricted to that single 4-barrel carburetor, etc. Dave Tucker driving a modified production class. It's quicker because it's allowed more body modifications once again and more engine modifications. Roller camshaft, 2 big 4-barrel carburetors. National records are 961. He gives away 0.68 of a second to Jerry Cooper. Cooper was a car that qualified higher. Both edging in towards the beams.
Jerry Cooper in the Fulcrum lane, over by the mound.
We're in the first round of Billman Performance Superstock Eliminator.
Jerry Cooper races Dave Tucker in the Tirana, in the Egypt lane, and leaps out in the Holden. He's chased now by the Tirana.
And this is a good hole shot by Dave Tucker. I don't think he'll catch Jerry Cooper. Cooper will get there first. Runs a 10.21, which I think's under the record. 115.24 mile an hour for Cooper. Here we see it into the finish line area. Got a handy lead over Dave Tucker, and he's run under the national record by 0.07 of a second.
Dave Tucker's car seemed to get offline there too, about halfway down the lane. 1957 is Alan Bowen.
Alan Bowgen.
Bowgen in the Ford. 470 cubic inch custom line, Ford custom line. And number 544 is Kelvin Sweeney driving the Chevelle, 358 cubic inch Chevelle, Chev powered.
And we've got a wide diversity of class again. We see another one of these modified sedans for Kelvin Sweeney, the 358 cube Chevelle. But on the screen now, Alan Bowgen. He's better known as Captain Cuzzo. He's a Ford fan from way back. Kelvin Sweeney with more burnouts. Bowgen running double B gas. It's the same class as the 57 Chevy of Victor Bray's we saw a few minutes earlier. And Bowgen will have to give away a big handicap start.
Fairly wide diversity of ways of earning a living too. We see Kelvin Sweeney's actually a gynecologist.
National record in B modified sedan is 10.54 as Alan Bowgen looks to have problems. The crew pushing the car back.
And the record stands at 8.36.
And I think that night's all over for Alan Bowgen. We'll see a single pass by Kelvin Sweeney. Alan Bowgen with a breakage. Kelvin Sweeney comes into the staging lights now. He'll be aiming for that national record of 10.54.
Dr. Kelvin Sweeney in the Chevelle 358 on a bye run. That'll be a nice easy win for him. The lights come down and he leaps out. Oh, just absolutely bounces down the track.
Missed a gear there. Anytime you miss a gear, it causes an over-rev of the engine, which they don't like. He runs an 11.11, 125 miles an hour on the bye run. Billman Performance, the people sponsoring Superstock Eliminator. Okay, Les Winters and the Winters Smash Repairs AA gasser. This is another big supercharged big block Chevy. It's a 55. There we have Mark Ezzy from Mount Isa running A Street. And both cars doing big burnouts.
All that smoke you can see blowing back there, a good percentage of that comes from Les Winters' car, which is just awesome on the burnout, and was just snaking down the track.
Yes, Jim, big in the burnouts, big all the way round. 542 cubic inches of big block Chevy. That's a lot of horsepower.
I don't know that they come too much bigger than that, do they? 542?
Not in this country.
I think that's what we could safely call a big block.
Mark Ezzy all the way from Mount Isa. He's running A Street. The national record's 10.66. He's going to get that mammoth 2.69 handicap start. Then Les Winter has to try and catch him from behind.
And you look at that, yes, Les Winter, the record for that class, under 8 seconds, 7.97. Cars still not in position yet. We're just waiting for the cars to get into position before we get them away. Les Winter running the Dulux, A1 quality chrome. And Mark Ezzy in the Holden Commodore, 312 cubic inches. He's actually a fitter by trade. But there we see Les Winter's awesome Chevy, 1955 model Chevy, running, as we said, the big block, 542 cubic inches. And a nice shot of the car there.
Mark Ezzy running with assistance from CNC Motors in Townsville, along with Alan Way Racing Heads. First round of Billman Performance Superstock Eliminator. 2.69 seconds is a handicap as the revs come up. Les Winter edges into stage. Away goes Mark Ezzy. And now Les Winter's got trouble. Still going though, well and truly out in front. Has to pedal it momentarily. Pulls the chutes and runs an 8.52 at 170.39 mile an hour for the win.
We have Kim Peterwood in the Commodore. Kim Peterwood driving the Commodore, and that's Daniel Stanek.
Daniel Stanek in that supercharged Chevy-powered Monaro, running that double B gas class, which is very popular. There's Kim Peterwood in the Commodore on screen. He's running A modified production.
And the record for the A modified production at 9.61. Daniel Stanek running against a record of 8.36. So he'll be giving away about 1.2 or so.
Yeah, 1 1/4 seconds there. 1.25. Daniel Stanek in the Terry's Diffs and Chassis car. This at one stage was the fastest double B gasser in the country. Some of the others have caught up. This car at Kim Peterwood's, it's well known for huge wheel stands, Jim. You'll want to keep an eye on this one. We see the crew there giving advice or getting it from the driver. Daniel Stanek behind the wheel. The tail lights are turned on. A safety thing during night racing. Kim Peterwood in the far lane, he's ready. And the Daniel Stanek team waiting until they're happy with the traction of the rear tyres. 1.25 seconds handicap start to this car. Keep an eye on the front wheels. Kim Peterwood is known for big wheel stands.
This is Kim Peterwood in the Commodore, and in the yellow Monaro is Daniel Stanek as they await the lights to come down the Christmas tree now. 383 there, Daniel Stanek in the big Monaro, and they're away at racing.
Once again with the big wheel stands, Daniel Stanek's got the supercharged car wound up, coming on strong. I think he'll just get there. Certainly brings on the win light. just gets there. 8:38 at 151.11 mile an hour for Daniel Stanek. Watch on the replay how close it is. It's the terminal speed that's won it for Daniel Stanek by the barest of margins. 151. Kim Petterwood with a 9:59 and 141. We continue on with Billman Performance Superstock Eliminator. We've got David Baxter in the Ipswich Car Sales, AA gasser. Another one of these supercharged, Keith Blacks, running AA gas.
And 456 is Benny Gatt in the 3. Supercharged forward, and he just shows his muscle there with the burnout.
We see how popular this BB gas class is this weekend. I think that's about the 4th BB gasser we've seen out in the first round of Billman Performance Superstock. Benny Gatt from Superflow Heads in Sydney, running for Quaker State Oil. David Baxter from right here in Ipswich.
Baxter actually giving away almost half a second to Benny Gatt. David Baxter in the XE Falcon. 7.97 the record stands for that car, 242 that you can see there. We're just giving you a shot of him as he looks across at us.
These cars are allowed identical modifications. The difference in class is the size of their engine to the weight of the car. Dave Baxter with a big 499 cubic inch Keith Black and only a 351 for Benny Gatt. So that's why there's a handicap. That's why they're in different classes. 0.39 of a second handicap start to Ben Gatt. In they go to the staging area. Ben Gatt creeping forward. Just brings on the beams. Those cars out like a shot. Dave Baxter with a brilliant reaction time. I don't know whether he's going to be able to catch Benny Gatt though. Gatt gets there first. Runs an 8:32 at 157.18. That's just under the national record. Here we see Baxter's on a charge, but he can't catch Benny Gatt. Gary Erickson now in the no-name Tirana, up against Paul Beecham. Paul Beecham running A Street with this beautiful HK Monaro. Gary Erickson running D Gas. This is a highly modified sedan. It's got a full chassis in it. The body's virtually draped down low over this chassis. All aluminium interior. 2 twin 4-barrel carburetors, specialised 5-speed gearbox. Paul Beecham, on the other hand, he's running the A Streeter, Jim.
Yeah, the 327, the good old Chev 327 block, HK Monaro, Paul Beecham, Gary Erickson, the Tirana. 336 cubic inches, just coming back up onto the line.
We see a good view of that car there, and we can see how standard it is to all intents and purposes. It's got the full interior, it's got full instrumentation, it's all metal panels, it's a stock body, there's no chassis in the car, just a roll cage. It's permitted limited engine modifications and a tiny pair of slicks up the back. Gets a big 1.04 second handicap start. There's the handicap we saw. Beecham is out in front, and here comes Gary Erickson until he has a problem.
Certainly does. That's a win for Paul Beecham, HK Monaro. 10.77 at 127.19 miles an hour is a good run.
There we see Gary Erickson suddenly stop. He looked to be making a charge, but something broke. Andrew Anthony running B-modified sedan in the South Star Motors Holden. Modified sedan, once again, one of the limited modification classes.
He's
Looks like he's got a solo. His opponent hasn't been able to make the first round of racing. So Andrew Anthony gets to the second round the easy way. Going to drive it through the lights.
And does it at 11.39 at 124.45 miles an hour.
That's 0.15 of a second under the national record, so he'll be looking tough in the second round of Super Stock Eliminator. We move into the first round of Competition Bike Eliminator. This is for motorcycles. They run on handicap, and they're handicapped like Super Stock on the national record for their class. Competition Bike Eliminator coming our way. That's Dave Borum. He's top qualifier in Comp Bike Eliminator, running B Comp Bike class, and he qualified a long way under his national record. Runs a turbocharged Suzuki.
And Dennis Ackland on the Suzuki, number 458, the Suzuki 1260 cc's. He's running for Wards Express. Get there in a hurry, or get there in a hurry on this one. If you want a parcel taken down the other end of the strip, it won't take him very long. The record at 10.06, the class record. Running against Dave Borum on the Suzuki with a class record of 8.64. So Borum giving away about 1.5 seconds to Dennis Ackland.
And Dennis running in the A street bike class. This is pretty similar. It's a motorcycle version of what we just saw with Paul Beecham. There's limited modifications available. We see no wheelie bars, etc. And he'll need that handicap start because Dave Borum runs very, very quickly in the deep end.
There's Ackland away first. Dave Borum out after him. He'll be leaving now. He's in the picture. He's got a long way to go to catch up with him, though. Comes up very smartly alongside him, but I don't think he'll do it. No.
David Ackland with a red light, though, on the start line. Left too early, so Dave Borum would have seen the red light. There was a big handicap, so that's probably why he backed off. He already had the race won. He didn't have to stretch that turbocharged Suzuki. Kevin Lehman on screen now with the Kawasaki, another turbocharged bike, this time in A Comp Bike class, where the national record is 797.
At 850 is Joe Marshall, the Suzuki Katana, 1260 cc's. He's a motor mechanic, comes from Redcliffe, sponsored by Redcliffe Honda. And on the screen, Kevin Lehman in the Kawasaki, turbocharged Kawasaki.
So we'll see another one of these big handicap races because Joe Marshall on a 10.06 record, he's going to get 2.09 seconds. 2.09 seconds for Joe Marshall. That's a big handicap. We'll keep an eye on that one. First round of Competition Bike Eliminator at the 1991 Australian Drag Racing Nationals. Joe Marshall lifts the front wheel. The engine bogged a little bit. We haven't seen Lehman yet. He's leaning the bike, trying to get into the race, but no way.
9.99 at 144.09 miles an hour.
That's 0.06 under the record there for Joe Marshall. Still we go with Competition Bike Eliminator. Andrew Wilson there from Tasmania. He's a very, very hard runner in A Street Bike. Won the Nationals last year in Ravenswood. He's the defender.
And racing Gary Thomas on the Suzuki 1170 cc's. That's the beautiful blue Suzuki there, number 957. Gary Thomas, an engine builder by profession. And
once again, we'll have that another big handicap between a B Comp Bike and another A Street Bike. A lot of A Streeters running in Comp Bike Eliminator. Andrew Wilson gets away with a 6.8 reaction time. That would have put him under pressure if it wasn't for the fact that Thomas looks to have trouble with the turbo bike. Wilson wins it.
9.82, the time 9.82, and 140 miles an hour.
And that puts him 0.235 under the record. So he's going to be a hard runner.
John Aiden and Lou Cotter. We see Lou Cotter there on the screen now, the Kawasaki, and it's John Aiden on the green Kawasaki, 750 cc's for the ZXR, and the Quacker 946 cc's of Lou Cotter. Now the difference here is over a second as well, with Cotter's class record standing at 9.51 and John Aiden running 10.57, so he'll get just over 1.06 of a second start. Lou Cotter on the Fulcrum lane car bike, and in the Egypt lane is John Aiden.
There's Lou Cotter. He's the guy that'll be doing the chasing, running with some assistance from McPhee Transport and Compass Airlines, having to get him across all the way from WA. John Aiden, a local Queenslander, on the Kawasaki, running C Street bike. It's only a 750.
And just over a second the difference. We'll see the green bike get away first. And Lou Cotter.
John Aiden with a .43 reaction time is a pearler. .40 is perfect. 4.3 is not far off it. He gets an easy win. Runs a 10.52 to be under the national record.
818 is Gary Franks and the Kawasaki 960 cc, sponsored by Oz Performance. The other bike there is number 550, Paul Andrews, riding a Suzuki.
Paul
engine. Sorry.
We see there Gary Franks running B comp bike. Paul Andrews running C street bike. So once more we get the big handicap. Andrews running out of Geelong Motorcycle Wreckers in Victoria.
There's almost 2 seconds the gap here. 8.64 races 10.57. And in 2 seconds you're a long way down the track.
No problems for the start line lights that time. There's a problem for the bike of Gary Franks, but Paul Andrews won't care. He's on a roll, he's on a number, and he's in the second round, having run a 10.52, which is 04 under the record, 131.85 mile an hour. A gearbox problem there of some sort for Gary Franks. The rear wheel is locked up and they can't move the bike.
There we see Peter Anderson, the Honda drag bike.
We're still in the first round of competition bike eliminator.
Yes, the supercharged 790cc Honda drag bike there on screen at the moment. 401 is Peter Anderson.
And Mark Thompson from South Australia with the Harley, and though the lane had some problems, we saw the fire crew over there for a minute. I'm not sure whether they had a problem there or not. There's a lot of officials around the bike. Mark Thompson with the Harley Davidson from South Australia. Heck of a lot of activity around it while Peter Anderson goes through his pre-stage procedure.
Just have a look at the virtually prone position of the rider there, Peter Anderson, on 401. So actually laying right forward over the framework of the bike, and I guess laying down in that position is providing the least wind resistance.
Peter Anderson will have a solo. Mark Thompson from South Australia with a problem behind the start line. We hear that supercharged engine, quite a distinct exhaust note rather than the turbo. Brings on the clocks, runs
146.63 miles an hour.
This is Perry Mackey's immaculate Harley Davidson, one of the most popular bikes in the country. National record holder for the pushrod comp bike class. Perry running out of Adelaide, South Australia, a 98 cubic inch Harley Davidson. In beside him, Glenn Prowse with his Suzuki, running B comp bike. So a handicap of around 9/10 of a second.
Once again, they could hardly be a very comfortable, one wouldn't want to ride from here to Sydney in that situation.
Well, Perry's only worried about comfort for about 9.5 seconds. Yeah. We hear the turbo bike being wound up. They study the Willowbank International Raceway. Christmas tree. The top lights mean they're at the pre-stage, approaching the start line. They're into the start line beams. Down comes the Christmas tree. Perry Mackey leaves with a good 5.3 reaction time. Glenn Prowse is in front though. The Suzuki's the bike that'll do it. He runs an 8.34 at 153.06.
Carlo Agostino on the Harley Davidson, the 1200cc Harley, takes on this bike number 126 of Fabio Crystal. A rerun for these two, the Suzuki 1186 cc's with a class record of 10.06, running against Carlo Agostino on the Harley. Class record stands at 9.51, so
it's 0.55 of a second handicap start going to the Crystal Paint Suzuki. We see the concentration there on the bike. Leaves the line hard. Good reaction times on both sides of the tree. They both recorded 0.43 reactions, but Fabio Crystal is going to put another Harley Davidson out of the racing.
A 9.92 at 136.16 miles an hour on that run.
So another racer under the national record. He's 0.13 under that A street bike record. Competition bike eliminator is tough. So's competition eliminator for the cars. Competition eliminator for cars running on national record handicaps. The similar system as super stock that we've seen, comp bike that we've seen. Here we go with competition eliminator, sponsored by Bumper to Bumper. There's Bob Shepherd from Sydney in his Double B funny car. It's a big block Chevrolet powered Camaro. Supercharged, fuel injected big block. We're in the first round of Bumper to Bumper competition eliminator. Alan Gray in the T bucket.
Yes, Alan Gray, powered by a Chev 355 cubic inch. He's actually a Boilermaker, and sponsored by Alan Way Heads Pacific Performance. And the other car, well, there's 692 we can see there now is Alan Gray. Yes, he's racing Robert Shepherd in the Pontiac, Chev-powered Pontiac. 461 cubic inches in the Gambler, and a class record for him at 7.41, so just under half a second the difference, with Alan Gray's class record standing at 7.9 in the T bucket. The Silver Streak, the Pontiac Firebird.
Yes, we're in supercharged competition eliminator action. Alan Gray from Brisbane, Bob Shepherd from Sydney. Bumper to bumper competition eliminator and bumper to bumper action here at the Willowbank 91 Nationals.
Got Bob Shepherd in the Egypt lane, and in the fulcrum lane is, of course, the T bucket of Alan Gray. And set
Bob Shepherd with problems, but Alan Gray running straight and true's got the first round win. Runs a 7.69, way under the record, 0.20 under the record, 176.96 mile an hour for the Silver Streak. Here comes an awesome car. This is John Payne in the GDM Wreckers Penrod Performance. Big block Chevrolet Corvette.
There's John Payne in the Corvette, and plenty of people here to cheer him on too. Oh, big burnout. And over in the Egypt lane is Ian Seckold in the Dragster, Chev-powered, supercharged, 350 cubic inches that car. He's actually an accountant. This would be a big step from accountancy as far as thrills are concerned. I couldn't think of a more boring way to spend a week, but he certainly livens things up on the weekend, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Ian Seckold from Sydney, qualified number 2, I think, in competition eliminator. He's up against John Payne, a guy that's won the Nationals before. He's a hard runner from Brisbane. Ian Seckold from Sydney, sponsorship from Chase AMP at Liverpool, and select form.
And about half a second, 0.47 the difference between the class records here, with John Payne giving 0.47 of a second to Ian Seckold. Seckold's class record at 7.8, whilst John Payne in the Corvette 7.33.
Ian Seckold over there in the Zagadlo and Seckold car. We see Ray Zagadlo doing the crew work. There's John Payne, gets the thumbs up from Brian Prince, his crew chief. He's ready to go in and stage, and look at that huge 1471 supercharger sticking through the bonnet of the Corvette.
The amount of fuel and air that's pushed down through those superchargers is quite incredible too. Almost makes the mind boggle how much fuel these cars will soak up over a quarter mile.
John Payne edging towards the beams. Ian Seckold's already in. We'll see the second light on the tree come on up top. There it is, it blinks on. Here we go with a run. Seckold gets off well. Here comes John Payne, who squirrels around at half track. Seckold hangs on.
Certainly was hairy, but 7.82 was good enough at 177.8 miles an hour.
Look at John Payne here. He's in trouble at mid-track, comes on with a charge, just fails to catch Ian Seckold in the lights. Payne with a 7.40, only 7/100ths of a second over his record. That's Mike Ebert burning out down the track. He's the #1 qualifier and competition eliminator. Another double C altered. It's a supercharged small block Chevy.
And that's Debbie Reed, another of our lady contenders here in the dragster, the Donovan 445. Debbie Reed, number 24, races Mike Ebert in the altered Chev 331.
And Debbie Reed's Australia's fastest mother. She's the quickest female competing currently in drag racing. And there's no other form of motorsport that reaches the speeds of this car. Runs very, very high terminal speeds. It's in a fuel-injected car. We see A dragster. There's no double A prefix there. That means there's no supercharging. She gets to give away a handicap start, though, because she's got a far bigger engine than Mike Ebert in the supercharged car.
Yes, 0.14 of a second. It's not a great deal, I suppose, although 0.14 of a second in one of these cars, you could get a little way down the track. 7.76 as opposed to 7.9, the class records. And Debbie Reed giving away that 0.14 of a second to Mike Ebert in the altered Chev.
And Mike Ebert qualified with a 7.4 second pass, over half a second under his record. Debbie Reed has to give him a start, and then her car has never run 7.4. So if Mike Ebert keeps up the performance, Debbie Reed really needs a big number, and she needs a good reaction time. She's well known to be good on the start line.
Well, she'll need to be good here tonight.
Unfortunate prospect of running the #1 qualifier. Mike Ebert in the awesome double C altered. Debbie Reed with the whole shot. Debbie Reed's got the first round win. She got out in front. Mike Ebert had the problems, and Debbie Reed's driven it on down, taken the win.
7.83 at 173.34 miles an hour.
And a very dejected Mike Ebert without enough speed to pull the parachute out. He had some sort of problem off the start line. Couldn't quite catch it.
And how close was Debbie Reed to the record too, at 0.072, if you want to take it to the thousandth of a second?
This is the first time during racing that we've seen the heads-up brackets come out. This is Pro Stock motorcycle. There's no handicap. There's no breakout. There's one flash of the ambers, and they're gone. And it's a race to the end of the quarter mile.
Only one flash.
One flash. It's a pro start, so there's no 3 ambers. All of the amber lights flash at once, so they have 0.4 of a second warning of the green light, and it's reflexes. That's what it comes down to.
That's a real test. That is
and this
a real
is
test.
Phil Howard from South Australia. He's top qualifier in pro motorcycle, running a bike prepared by John Hoskins.
He's racing Igor Krasnowski on the Kawasaki. Kawasaki.
And
Igor Krasnowski, tell us about him.
Igor qualified with some big terminal speeds. Maybe it's the fairing on the bike. This pro bike's got a lot of horsepower. He's running more terminal speed than Phil Howard. Phil Bluey, as he's better known, man with the reddest hair you've ever seen. But this is the bike that's a #1 qualifier.
And big motors under these bikes as well. Both of these Kawasaki's running better than 1400 cc's.
Here we'll see the one flash of the ambers and then they'll be gone. There they go. And a red light for Igor Kranowski. He was too quick on the start line. Phil Howard's going to take it out. Runs an 868 at 151.16 mile an hour.
A 502 is Morris Allen. Maury Allen on the Suzuki, 1200cc Suzuki, races Scott White on the Kawasaki, and again over 1400 cc's on this Kawasaki.
And Scott White's all the way down from Darwin in the Northern Territory. They've come from all over Australia to race the Nationals. And Maury Allen, he's a local resident.
Yeah, he's actually a chef by profession. See what he's got cooking here tonight. Sponsored by Custom Coating.
And Peter Allen Racing. There's Scott White. Bike prepared by Ray Eason Motorcycle Engineering. These pro motorcycles beautifully presented. There's Maury Allen. And we'll see his father out later in Top Bike. His father, Peter Allen, qualified with a 7.3 second 180 mile an hour pass on 2 wheels.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? That is unbelievable. If you watch these bikes getting out of the start, as they come up out of the hole, you'll notice sometimes that the front wheels don't even turn.
That's right. They don't put down the front wheel until they shift to second gear, and sometimes they're actually running automatic gearboxes in these things, in that they have to shift them manually, but they drive through into the next gear, and they can carry the wheel all the way through first, second, sometimes third gear. And I can tell you there's not a 500cc GP bike in the world that will stay with one of these pro motorcycles.
Yeah, they certainly do need those little trolley wheels out the back, just the little dolly wheels out the
wheelie bars.
back.
That keeps the front wheel somewhere near the ground. And a red light there. Red light for White from Darwin.
And Maury Allen will take out the win. Maury Allen on the Suzuki, the 1200, the local boy, 9.05 for him, 140.71 miles an hour. That's just over half a second outside of his record, but a good win for him.
Certainly, he goes through there, gets the win. Okay, there's Les Donnan from South Australia. He's the national record holder for pro stock bike. He quite hasn't been able to get down to his regular performances here at Willowbank. Over there we see Twinkle Taylor, the only female in pro stock motorcycle at the Nationals. Twinkle Taylor riding for MTC Engineering and Phase 4 motorcycles. Les Donnan from South Australia, Twinkle Taylor from Brisbane, and Twinkle Taylor last raced at the 88 Nationals. She's a former national record holder, and because it's the big one, it's the Nationals, she comes out.
Yes, we've got them from far and wide here tonight, and in fact over the past 3 days we've had them at Willowbank from the Northern Territory, from Western Australia, from all over the country. They've come flocking to Willowbank for the second time. We're running the Nationals here in southeast Queensland, and I think everybody at Willowbank has done a pretty darn good job of showing some hospitality to these interstaters as well. It's very disappointing for people who've come all the way across the Nullarbor or halfway across Australia to go out on such small points, but that's racing.
That's the sport of drag racing. There's Twinkle Taylor, and in beside her, Les Donnan on the yellow and black bike. Les running with assistance from the Bike Centre and Bike City in Adelaide. He's running in the Fulcrum suspension lane. Got one of these D&D Industries fiberglass bodies on the bike. And a red light.
Well, Well, as they line up there now, we see 776 David Hall on the 1260cc Suzuki. Races Warren Dunn on screen now on his 1498, almost 1500 cc's. Warren Dunn on the Suzuki, and 776 also Suzuki, David Hall.
David Hall down from Mackay in North Queensland. First time out for quite a while for the H&H Racing Suzuki. Warren Dunn on screen at the moment. He's from here in Brisbane. His first race meeting in Pro Stock Motorcycle. He's found a lot more horsepower. He bought a head off former national champion Gavin Spann, bolted it onto the bike and improved by nearly half a second. And here he is in the Pro Stock Motorcycle field at the 1991 Nationals.
Yeah, he's actually sponsored by Joe Engineering, J-O-H.
Yeah, John O'Hare Engineering, J-O-H Engineering, and Precise Automotives.
It might have been Joe Bioki-Peterson.
That's David Hall. He's on the Suzuki. Pair of Suzies on the line. Pro Stock Motorcycle for Aussie Trackware. Aussie Trackware sponsoring the bracket. And good leaves both sides. David Hall with a reaction advantage, but Warren Dunn's got the horsepower. He gets there first. An 881 at 134.97 mile an hour for Warren Dunn takes the win. We see a big margin at the finish line on the replay there for Warren Dunn.
Tonight, it's absolutely beautiful.
It's
and
perfect conditions.
Yep.
The air's coming good, and we move into Pro Comp Eliminator, the first time out for this bracket. It's an all-new Australian National Drag Racing area. The brand new Bob Meyer built car from the United States. And Bob Meyer all the way from car run at the Nationals at its first ever meeting.
These cars are running on milk. The amount of fuel that they can actually take down through the motor is just phenomenal. We were talking over in the pits again before, and 10 gallons, up to 10 gallons of fuel can go down through the motor in 5 seconds.
That's right, the nitro burners can run about 10 gallons of fuel. These alcohol cars don't use quite as much fuel, but I tell you what, they really pour it in, and they make a lot of horsepower too. You're looking at 1,500 to 2,000 horsepower. We see the Posibon and Phillips car there. Gary Phillips behind the wheel. He'll be racing John Noonan in the Pace Setter Insurances AA Dragster. John Noonan from Brisbane. Gary Phillips from Townsville in North Queensland. Beautiful Harker Transport and STP supported car. He's the #1 qualifier with a 6-1 in qualifying. John Noonan, he's got a beautiful car as well. He's in the Adjip Oils pit side lane. Watch this action. It's going to be fast in Pro Comp. Reaction times will be critical. Up the rest. John Noonan gets out in front, and Gary Phillips is all over the track, just saves it. It's an upset. The top qualifier out in the first round, but keeps the car safe. 6.50 for John Noonan, 207.37, and Gary Phillips overpowered it. Very, very close, and saved it.
A heart-stopping moment. A heart-stopping moment.
Here it is, sideways, headed for the fence. Look at the driving from Gary Phillips. Really steering that car up on 3 wheels. The front end comes back down. What a beautiful chassis performance from the Bob Meyer built car.
And they are built to flex, of course, aren't they?
If there hadn't been the flex in that car, the front wheels would have been off the deck and it would have been undrivable. Gary Phillips with a driving job of the year. John Noonan in the second round of Pro Comp takes the win. And we move into the next race. Dale Pedersen in a AA funny car from Melbourne. Chev Beretta bodied car. Here comes Steve Harker, the winner of the Best Engineered Award at the 1991 Nationals. This car running an Australian-developed engine. It's the McGee's alcohol combination. 4 camshafts. There's double overhead cams on both sides of the engine. Absolutely awesome. There's Dale Pedersen. There's Stephen Harker.
So would we have an idea of how much horsepower these cars would be turning out?
1,500 to 2,000 odd horsepower, depending on the combination. And of course, the whole act is to tune the horsepower to the track and the kart so you get the power down. There's Stephen Harker in the Harker Transport car. You see the no smoking sign. You can imagine the amount of tyre smoke inside that cabin.
Steve Harker in the funny car, the Thunderbird, the McGee car, and Dale Pedersen.
And they're running in the Pacesetter Insurance's Pro Comp Eliminator. Stephen Harker from Brisbane, Dale Pedersen from Melbourne. Heads up Pro Comp action, pair of AA funny cars. Steve Harker has already reset the national speed record this weekend. They're coming into the staging beams now. Good angle of Harker's car as he brings on the pre-stage lights. The revs come up. There's the stage beam. There it is. Good leads both sides, but it's Steve Harker that's on a number. He'll get there first. Runs 6:47, 216.55 mile an hour.
Just 0.132 outside the track record.
Here comes Harker into the deep end. He's got it 1. Dale Pedersen fading in the background. Harker at 216 mile an hour. Absolutely fantastic performances in this first round of Pacesetter Insurance's Pro Comp. This is the number 2 qualifier, the Jim and Stephen Reed's funny car racing out of Brisbane. Both these cars, local cars.
Steve Reed actually sponsored by Agip as well. He's running in the corporate lane. Running in the Agip lane is Jeff Burnett.
Big burnout there from Steve Reed. And it was Steve's wife, Debbie, that we saw in competition eliminator in the dragster earlier on. So it's a real racing family. There we have Jeff Burnett, recently returned from the United States. He's wants to sell this car so he can go racing in America. He's got a combination over there that he wants to get into. There's the Steve Reed driven car.
And that's a rear shot of the Trans Am of Steve Reed as it comes back up to the line. Just ushered in. You can see the 2 parachutes there. Absolutely essential to stop these cars at the end of the run. And in fact, once those chutes open, the deceleration is greater than the acceleration, which is almost hard to believe.
Yeah, the G-forces experienced by the driver on the wide safety harness straps are unbelievable. And these big chutes definitely pull up these cars from over 200 mile an hour. Big supercharged Brad Anderson, Keith Black aluminium engine in the Jim and Stephen Reed car, and aluminium Donovan for Jeff Burnett, the Elkie burner. Sponsored by Caroline Sewers and Well Engineering, as well as Valvoline for the Jeff Burnett car. Meanwhile, Jim and Stephen Reed, Agip Oils, champion spark plugs. STP, MS Auto Parts, a lot of supporters for the Reed family car. The cars come in. Pro Comp Eliminator for Pacesetter Insurances. The stage beams are eliminated.
We're set to go racing.
And Steve Reed on a number. Good start line reaction. Got the shootout early. Still runs 6:54.
207.95 miles an hour. 207.95 miles an hour. 0.205 outside of the record.
Jeff Burnett with troubles. Backed out of it at half track, but Reed with a 6:54 had the shoots out early.
And there
Here
goes
we see
Reed.
the shoots out way before the finish line. Look at those big parachutes, slowing it down to only 207 mile an hour. We're still in the first round. The action's been thick, fast and furious at the Willowbank running of the 1991
Cleaning
Nationals.
the windscreen. Cleaning
That's
the windscreen.
Vic
Now
Baker.
that's Harold Campbell. That's Harold Campbell burning out in the tea bucket.
He's a
KB.
wild man, is Harold Campbell, down from Townsville, running AA altered in Pro Comp Eliminator.
And the other car's 1017 is Vic Baker in the funny car, KB 518 motor. He's actually sponsored by his own Vic Baker power steering. Burn out and lots of smoke, and he kept it down for a little while there and makes a real smoke screen. Vic Baker.
Beautiful Corvette-bodied funny car.
And he lifts the lid just to allow that smoke to come up out of the car.
We saw a wild and woolly burnout from Harold Campbell and then a smoky straight one from Vic Baker. They're running heads-up pro comp action for Pacesetter Insurances. Harold Campbell in the Adjip Oils lane. Harold runs with assistance from Melbourne's Automotive and Cannon and Strong Motors up there in Townsville. Vic Baker from Sydney.
They've certainly come from all corners of the countryside to be here with us for our second running of the Nationals, and of course it's the silver anniversary Nationals, the 25th year of it this year, and Willowbank very proud to play host for the three-day event. This being the final day and indeed the final night, and this is what they've all come for, the main slice of the action taking place here tonight.
Harold Campbell with a little chirpy there and a bit of smoke out of the right-hand bank for Harold Campbell with the Keith Black. The body is up on Vic Baker's car. The crew trying to be told about some sort of problem that Vic spotted from inside. They seem to be happy with it. Down goes the body again. Harold Campbell will be anxious to get in and stage. Crew chief for Vic Baker says, "You're right, go in." These engines build a lot of heat when they're at idle like this. They're running on methanol, alcohol fuel.
You certainly wouldn't want that bonnet to lift when you drop the clutch, though, would you? I mean, the whole damn car comes up.
Absolutely, secured very, very well in the front. Listen to the RPM. Campbell with trouble off the start line. Vic Baker straight as an arrow and running hard.
A great run for Baker at 6.46, 208 miles an hour, 1.123 outside of his track record, but there it is, 6.46 and a 208 mile an hour win. Good enough, as we see on the replay, Vic Baker just blasting down the strip.
Harold Campbell with problems.
Yes, and certainly has got problems. We can see the smoke coming from that car, but we crossed the line and it's all Vic.
And what a brilliant first round of Pro Comp Eliminator for Pacesetters Insurance. We're going into Top Fuel Eliminator, the premier bracket for DP Auto Parts. Romeo Capitanio, the #1 qualifier with Australia's fastest ever drag race. He ran a 5:31 to grab the #1 spot in the Rocket Industries Top Fuel Dragster.
I don't know whether the camera or the television actually shook, but I can assure you the whole ground shook when he did that burnout there, and I could feel it come right up through the carpet here in the control tower.
These cars shake the ground. When they come past you when you're on the hill, you feel the noise hit you in the chest. It's an actual power force.
You can actually...
This is awesome. These cars, 3,500 horsepower. They're running nitromethane fuel. They need 16 spark plugs to keep it lit. That's how much fuel they put in. 10 gallons on
10
one
gallons
run.
in 5 seconds.
And you know how much the fuel's worth, Jim?
About $6 a gallon.
$60 a gallon.
$60 a gallon, yes.
$600 in fuel to go a quarter mile. You don't want
That's
to try
right,
an endurance
$600,
race.
yeah.
This car runs 2 fuel pumps to provide enough fuel up to the engine. And what we see there now is the car's running on 1 pump while it's at idle and on the burnouts. Once we see the car ready to go into stage, the crew chief will reach across and flick the switch on the second pump.
Now that car's reversing back. Is that actually in reverse gear and driving itself back?
Absolutely. The car's equipped with a reverser. They're a top gear only car, one forward gear, and the power's fed through a six-stage clutch. The flame we see there is nitromethane that wasn't able to be burnt inside the engine. It burns down the pipes and out into the air.
Well, reversing that would be a fine art. I would suggest he shouldn't hit the accelerator. I mean, obviously it's got a reverse gear, but it would just be idling back, I suppose. And these cars have a stage clutch, which...
It's an electronically controlled six-stage clutch. You program when you want it to lock up progressively, so when you leave the line, the clutch is slipping as if you're doing a hill start. Progressively feeds more and more power to the rear wheels. We'll hear the engine note actually change when the second pump comes in. There's those little Goodyear Eagle front wheels. That's what's going to steer this car at over 250 mile an hour. Running for Rocket Industries.
With all this, they have an onboard computer which is reading everything that's going on inside the engine so that at the end of the run they can go back and analyse the performance of the car in detail.
Absolutely, and also, of course, they judge by the seat of the pants. There's Romeo Capitanio. He's going to do a pass in his Top Fuel dragster. The two pumps will be on now, edging into stage. This is Australia's... Shakes. Look at the flame, a lot of spark out the bottom of the car. That's clutch. That was clutch, but look at this.
5.49 with a terminal speed of 248.62 miles an hour is frightening, and it's under the record by 0.029.
Look at the flame out of the headers on the replay, and look at that spark. That's from the clutch can. That car did not have the clutch set up properly, and it is destroying a clutch on that run. 248 mile an hour coming up right now. There it is, still under power, well into the braking area.
Driving car number 512, Robin Kirby in the dragster, powered by KB 510 motor. Robin's actually a manager, sponsored by Federal Mogul and Keating's Transport.
And we're going to see a paired pass because in the background we can see the engine alight in Jim Reed's Winfield Top Fuel car in the Agip lane. There's Robin Kirby from Victoria. Here comes Jim Reed, 10 times Nationals winner.
The program. Oh, that's the
that car is awesome. Jim Reed was out-qualified for the first time in living memory in Top Fuel at the Nationals. He is loaded for bear.
He is nevertheless the national title holder and I guess the quickest man on wheels in this country.
That's right. They can adjust the horsepower on these cars by the percentage of nitromethane they run, the advance in the ignition, the supercharger overdrive. And I tell you what, there's a high percentage of nitro in that car of Jim Reed's. Have a look at that. That's the Winfield racing car. Here is Robin Kirby in the Federal Mogul car. We're in DP Auto Parts Top Fuel. Just checking the oil pressure on the gauges there for Kirby.
Well, you know they're good when you look and you see under occupation. They say we are a pro dragster driver.
That's exactly it. Jim Reed, a professional drag racer, winningest man in Australian drag racing. Here comes Robin Kirby.
With two of these cars running side by side down the strip this time, you will feel the ground shake.
Jim Reed pushes back, got a problem, shuts it down. Kirby will go on a solo. On it, off it. He's had a couple of goes at the throttle, the car just not behaving itself, so he's used the intelligence part and backed off. Ran 8.12 at 121.39 mile an hour. We're into Pro Stock action for bumper to bumper. And Pro Stock, this is more of this heads-up racing, Jim. One amber, and no handicaps.
And that's Joe Polito, car number 537. Joe Polito driving the Ford Probe, the Cleveland 351 V8 motor, beautifully turned out motor car. And have a look at the hump on the middle of the bonnet there. That would be a little difficult to see over the top of.
It's very, very essential. That scoop bringing in a lot of undisturbed air. That's why it's mounted up so high over the bonnet. Joe sitting over on the left-hand side of the car there. And there's Larry Bazanik from Brisbane. Both of these cars, American-bodied, American-built.
And these cars running carburetors.
Absolutely. Pro Stock Eliminator, heads-up action for carburetted sedans. This is a professional category for sedan racing in Australian drag racing. Joe Polito from Sydney. There he is in the Quaker State Ford Probe. He's up against a Chevy-powered Pontiac for Larry Bazanik from Brisbane. Very low, swoopy body lines. Aerodynamics essential in these cars that reach well over 150 mile an hour.
Larry Bazanik in the Egypt lane. In the fulcrum suspension lane, it's Joe Polito. We're standing by for a start. Just waiting for the Christmas tree, and we'll be away in just a moment. Here they go.
Joe Polito muffs the start. Larry Bazanik starting to fight his car and wrestle. Here comes Polito. He's going to get away with it. Joe Polito, the let-off of the meeting.
Well, 9.31, 164.65 miles an hour.
That is a huge terminal speed for Joe Polito, and he totally muffed the start, but Bazanik handed it back to him because Larry Bazanik had troubles.
And we see Van Dyke in car number 869, the Buick-powered Holden, number 352. He plays Tony Wedlock in the Chev-powered Tirana. And actually, speaking of Hans Van Dyke, he actually brought up two cars, I think, Rob, and they did a magnificent engine swap, did they not?
Absolutely. He's brought up two Buick engines for this black taxi, the car he calls a black taxi. And he's up against Tony Wedlock here, but Hans found that his Buick he had in first wasn't quite doing the horsepower, so in 48 minutes he did a complete engine swap, came out for the next round and qualified well in Pro Stock Eliminator. Here they are, they're heading into stage, the revs come up, Hans Van Dyke comes out in front by about a mudguard, starts to stretch that lead. Tony Wedlock trying to hang on, but Van Dyke will do the job.
8.35 at 156.79 miles an hour.
There's Hans Van Dyke with that Buick engine. His 48-minute engine swap is justified as he goes into the second round with a victory over Tony Wedlock. Here we go, still with Pro Stock action in the Speed Pro. Camaro from Perth, Western Australia is Chris Mills. Very high horsepower car. He comes up against Wayne Daly in the Brisbane-based car from RCE Engineering. This is a Ford LTD.
370 cubic inches in that car, and that's the Camaro, the Speed Pro car. The Camaro of Chris Mills with 358 cubic inches of Chev takes on Ford. The Ford LTD of Wayne Daly, car 655. That's it there as it just backs up to the line through the smoke cloud after the burnout. And we're standing by for some action from these two, Pro 2, Speed Pro.
Wayne Daly's the proprietor of RCE Engineering and Performance and builds beautiful quality race cars. This is one example. Chris Mills has a big horsepower advantage with the Chevy Camaro, but Wayne Daly, he's been doing well with the Ford.
And Chris Mills also into performance as well. He's sponsored by Chris Mills Performance. So RCE Performance takes on Chris Mills Performance here.
And this is Pro Stock Eliminator, sponsored by Bumper to Bumper. Round one at the 1991 Australian Nationals.
Bumper to Bumper, of course, the people to see for everything from bumper to bumper for road, street or track.
That's it. This beautiful Ford LTD, one of the few new Australian bodied cars in the Pro Stock. Chris Mills, he's keen and ready to go, right up there near the stage beams. Mills qualified, I think, number 2 in Pro Stock Eliminator. One amber and then they're gone.
This is all about reflexes. Here we go.
And Chris Mills had the reflex there. A 4-6 reaction was a better start line reaction, and he's got a horsepower advantage. He's on a march, gets away from Wayne Daly.
And our time at 8.33, 162.57 miles an hour for the Camaro of Chris Mills. And there you see them there in the replay. There goes the Camaro coming across the line, takes out a fine win. Chris Mills over Wayne Daly.
Yeah, Wayne Daly there with an 8.90, just couldn't quite match the pace.
Adrian Kelly now in the Camaro, Buick-powered Camaro, 339 cubic inches. He's into plumbing in his spare time through the week to make $1 to spend on the weekend. Car number 427, sponsored by Pacific Performance, diff lapping. Adrian Kelly.
This was our top qualifier. He ran 8.2 seconds in qualifying, so got the #1 spot. We've ended up with a bye run in the first round. So here it is, Adrian Kelly.
So this should be an easy win for Adrian Kelly.
Well,
you'd pray for a bye run, would you?
He's got the win. That's absolute. But he will, I imagine, run the car hard because the racer with the lowest elapsed time from the previous round gets lane choice. Adrian Kelly, I think, will put down a good one. He might look for lane choice in the next round. The racer with the lower elapsed time, Jim, he qualifies to select which lane he wants to run in the next one.
So how important is that to a racer?
Well, at this stage at Willowbank, not very important at all in the regards to traction. But with these big scoops, you've got an advantage in the right lane regarding vision on the Christmas tree. So a lot of the Pro Stock racers prefer to run this right-hand lane.
Right.
Adrian Kelly into stage, brings the revs up and leaves the line hard, but looks to shut it down. He's having an interesting run, I can tell you that. The car moving all over the lane.
And a time of 10.77 at 106.89 miles an hour.
And we're back into Super Stock Eliminator.
This will be Les Winter, 542 cubic inches, and this thing is awesome with a capital A. Les Winter, the 1955 model Chevrolet, 542 cubic inches. And coming through on the inside, Stephen Jack with the equally awesome, I guess, Holden Statesman, Buick powered, 345 cubic inches. But look at the sheer size of that big grunty Chev. 542 cubes.
Yes, Les Winter running in the AA gas class in this round of Billman Performance Superstock. And he runs up against Steve Jack, who's in the BB gas class. Both cars allow the same modifications, etc. The difference is engine size. Les Winter with a bigger engine runs a tougher class. His record is 797. He'll give away 0.39 of a second handicap start to the #1 qualifier, Stephen Jack, in the Jack Brothers Statesman, sponsored by Phil Jack Performance and STP, Aussie Trackwear as well.
The size of that supercharger is unbelievable. That would be pushing an enormous amount of air down into the motor. That's a huge blower sticking up through the bonnet of that car.
That's where all the horsepower comes for this little 345 cubic inch Buick engine. We've got that handicap 0.39. Les Winter in the big Chevy. Steve Jack in the Statesman, the supercharged limousine. There goes Stephen Jack, and it's on a number. Les Winter out of the race already. Steve Jack looking strong. Takes the win.
Time of 7.96 gives him 168.22 miles an hour.
And look at this, it's on a number.
Yeah, that's also under the track record, under the record as well. 0.39 under the record.
Absolutely, all the way for Stephen Jack. We continue on with Billman Performance Superstock, another Statesman, but in a totally different class. We've got Jerry Cooper running in modified sedan. think we'll have a pair of modified sedans here. Jerry Cooper in the Statesman, running a modified sedan. These cars have fairly restricted modifications permitted. Jerry Cooper.
And in the other car is Andrew Anthony in the Chev-powered Holden, 355 cubic inches, car number 1255. You can see in the Egypt Tower side lane, up against Jerry Cooper's Statesman, 480 cubes for the Chev-powered Statesman. And the two cars just coming up to breast the line now, nose to nose as they come up. Get the ready lights on and we'll be away and racing.
That was the handicap for Andrew Anthony. They're both modified sedans, but Anthony with a smaller engine, Cooper with the higher speed, and Cooper's going to use that speed to advantage and takes an easy win in the end. 10.33 at 109 mile an hour, backed out of it there, Jim.
Yes, and on the replay we see him come across the line there, and that's a fine win for Jerry Cooper in the Statesman.
Okay, here we are with more super stock action, supercharged again. Here we are with Daniel Stanek against Benny Gatt. There's Ben Gatt with the Quaker State Oil Superglow heads. Hardtop Falcon, Daniel Stanek with the supercharged Monaro. Both these cars running double B gas, so it'll be heads up, no handicap in this one. A pair of Sydney racers.
And the Quaker State car of Benny Gatt, supercharged 351 cubic inch Cleveland.
Yes, and Daniel Stanek relies on a Chevy in the Monaro, 363 cubes.
And sponsored by Superflow Heads Quaker State is Benny Gatt. And of course he works with Superflow Heads and Links. Daniel Stanek driving the Monaro. Chev-powered Monaro, 363 cubic inches, is an industrial chemist.
So this will be a good run in the second round of Bill Mann Performance Superstock Eliminator. It's heads up, double B gas action. We see the crew there checking the tyres on the Terry's diff and chassis Monaro. Daniel Stanek behind the wheel. These two guys have raced each other quite often, but here they are at the Nationals.
So he heads up for this run. And it's simply the first one across the line will take out the win. 8.36, the class record for each. And the ready lights on, coming down the tree, and we're away and racing. Out of the chute they go, and the Monaro doing perhaps the better at the start, but the big Falcon of Gatt takes over as they come down towards the braking area.
And what a good run. Near side by side, the Gatts get the win with an 8.27 at 152.49. There we see him on the march. He's got a mile an hour advantage. Daniel Stanek back on 137. Kelvin Sweeney running a modified sedan. And here we have John Gedalis running a supercharged Holden powered HQ. And he's running the double C gas class. Sweeney running B modified sedan.
And John Goodell just coming back now with the HQ Holden, back down to the start line. Both cars backing up to it.
Only a tiny engine in Godellis's car, 280 cubic inches of Holden V8. There's
now,
John
where would they
inside
come
the
up
car.
with? Where would they come up with 280? Would that be a 253?
It's a D-stroked 308, so that you've got a large bore, small stroke, and it revs. This car revs very, very hard. There's a big handicap on this one of 1.64 seconds. Handicap start to Kelvin Sweeney, the racer from Newcastle.
Yeah, so we'll see the Chevelle clear out for the start. And then, of course, it'll be up to John Godellis to see if he can haul him in as they head down the strip.
That's it. There's John Godellis in the Fulcrum suspension lane.
And in the Egypt lane is Kelvin Sweeney with the 358 cubic inch Chevelle. And coming up now into the starting area.
Supercharger versus carburetor.
Got the first of the lights on, 2 lights on. And okay, we're in the starter's hands now.
Red light for Kelvin Sweeney. He left too soon. A .31 reaction, and that hands the win to John Godellis, who's going to drive it hard anyway by the look of it. Godellis with a 9.34 at 139.79, and I think that's not a bad sort of number for him. We see Godellis there, second across the line, but he'll be into the next round because Kelvin Sweeney red lighted.
Yeah, well, and in fact, Godellis was the quicker of the two. Anyway, moving on, Paul Beauchamp in the HK Monaro. Chef powered, and also the muffler shop car of Brian Purcell. That's the fancy Chimera, chef powered Chimera, 333 cubic inches, car 1487. Races Paul Beauchamp, or Beecham.
Yeah, Paul Beecham with that beautiful HK Monaro. He runs in the A Street class. As I said earlier, have a look how beautiful and stock this car appears. There are only a little set of 9-inch wide slick tyres on this car, Jim. That's all the rules will allow. It's got the engine that came out, or the configuration of engine that came out in the car as standard. It's a 327 Chevy. That's the way the HK GDSs came out.
That looks as though it's just come off the GMH production line, so long as you don't take too much notice of what sticks up through the bottom.
Brian Purcell from Mackay, he's got a big chase here. He's running C gas class, and look at the chase he's got. Paul Beecham a long way out, and Purcell will have more mile an hour, but he won't have enough. Beecham goes through first. Yes. 10.75 at 126.62 for Beecham, and that's a win.
Yes, and there he goes. That's Beecham taking the win across the line, and in fact about 15 miles an hour slower in getting that win than the other car.
You move into competition bike eliminator, comp bike. This is where the bikes run on the national record handicap still, and we're in the second round. That's Dave Borum on his turbocharged Suzuki B comp bike. He was top qualifier.
And Joe Marshall riding the Suzuki Katana, 1260 cc's, number 850. He's from Redcliffe and sponsored by Redcliffe Honda and sponsored by BP Kenmore. Also a Brisbane rider, BP Kenmore champion plugs. You see Dave Borum on his Suzuki 959 cc's of Suzuki number 686. 850, Joe Marshall is bringing that bike up onto the start line.
He's running in the A Street bike class. It's like a motorcycle equivalent of Paul Beecham's, and the Suzuki Katana there. His national record stands at 10.06, so he's going to get 1.42 seconds handicap start, and he's in and brought on the pre-stage beam. Dave Borum taking his time to get forward in stage. Here he comes now. And
Borum
bringing on the beams now, just edging that wheel into the lights. He'll wind the turbo up to build a boost, gives away that big handicap start, but it's all over on the start line as Joe Marshall, red lights, leaves too soon. Dave Borum's got it in the bag, so he's not going to stretch anything.
And Dave Borum with a reaction time of 0.51 and 9.45, the time at 114.1 miles an hour.
And we see here that Joe Marshall, he's riding it all the way through, runs at 10.3, but it was all wasted with a red light.
John Hayden in the Kawasaki ZXR 750 cc's. That'd be a 3-cylinder, 2-stroke, 750?
No, these new Kawasaki's, this is a 4-stroke motorcycle, right. And it's running 4 cylinders, 750 right. 4-stroke, as opposed to the old H2 Kawasaki's, which were a very, very quick bike.
They certainly were. The old 750s were like greased lightning in acceleration.
For their day. For their day,
yeah. For their day.
Okay, that's the Andrew Wilson Suzuki we see now. Andrew from Tasmania. He's the defending Nationals champion, won the 1990 Nationals at Ravenswood. He's over here giving away a handicap start of 0.51 of a second to this Brisbane racer on the Phil Beaumont Motorcycles Kawasaki. There's Wilson.
John Hayden on the Kawasaki, Andrew Wilson on the Suzuki, and they're both locked in and standing by.
There's the handicap start with a 5.9 reaction time to John Hayden, slightly ahead of the 6.1 for Wilson, but Wilson with the horsepower gets there first and runs a whopping quickest ever time in A Street Bike, 9.69, 9.69.
141 miles an hour.
That's quick. Look at this bike come on, charging. He is got to be right up there in the contenders for Comp Bike Eliminator. Andrew Wilson with the win. That's Fabio Crystal on the Crystal Paints bike, running A Street Bike. Beautifully presented vehicle.
And Paul Andrews would be on 550. Paul Andrews riding the Suzuki. Susie powered 770 cc's. He's a motorcycle mechanic by trade and sponsored by Geelong Motorcycle Records, so obviously travelled all the way up from Victoria. Number 550. 126 Fabio Crystal back on once again on the 1186cc Suzuki. This is the fellow we said is a paint manufacturer. He is, of course, the man behind Crystal Paints, also sponsored by Albion Motorcycles.
Fabio Crystal has previously run a best of 9.7 in this A Street Bike class. He will have just seen that 9.6 click up for Andrew Wilson, and that'll inspire him to try as he's never tried before. He's got to try and get past Paul Andrews. He's giving away that 0.51 of a second handicap start, the difference between the C and A Street Bike classes. There's Crystal crouched over his bike. Andrews leaves first, and Andrews goes up in a wheel stand, bogs it down, and Fabio Crystal cruises way ahead, winds it up, looking for a good number, runs a 9.9 for the win. So nothing real spectacular in the elapsed time there, a 9.9 at 138. We say nothing spectacular. He's faster than the national record, but doesn't match the 9.60 we saw earlier.
Number 401 is Peter Anderson, the Honda drag bike. And there's the other bike is Glenn Prowse, riding a Suzuki, 998 cc's, bike number 1452. That's 401 Peter Anderson. So
we've got a pair of competition bikes. They're both allowed the same type of modifications. We see one supercharged there. The difference, of course, we see is the size of the engines. Anderson with just a 790, Prowse with a big 1000cc Suzuki. As a result, we have a handicap start in this one of 0.51 of a second.
You're quick with your mathematics.
There we see them on the line. Second round of Comp Bike Eliminator. Anderson and Prowse. There goes Anderson. Leaves on a good reaction time, about the same with Prowse. It's a good race, this one. They're side by side. Anderson sneaks through, takes the win.
And on a time of 8.86 at 146.82 miles an hour. That's actually 0.289 under the record.
And Anderson really marched in the deep end. His mile an hour advantage. He ran 146, but look at this. Glenn Prowse charged in the end, ran a 152 mile an hour, but just couldn't quite catch him from behind. This is Top Fuel Bike coming up now. Round one. These are the quickest bikes in the world. They run with nitromethane on board, Jim, the same as our Top Fuel dragsters.
And bike number 842 is Steve Smith driving the Harley. The Harley 108. Tell me about that, of 108.
It's 108 cubic inches. The Harley-Davidson Brigade, of course, being US orientated, they love to talk in cubes. CCs are for Jap stuff as far as they're concerned, but over there in the other lane, Peter Allen, he's only got 960 CCs, right? That's a Kawasaki.
Trying to do some mental arithmetic here.
Peter Allen is on board the world's fastest motorcycle under 1,000 CCs. He's the top qualifier. He ran 7.3 seconds at over 180 mile an hour in qualifying. This is a supercharged, fuel-injected, nitro-methane burning Kawasaki. He's up against this Harley-Davidson of Steve Smith, also running nitro.
So how do we work that back to CCs, 108 cubic inches?
Lots.
Well, it's over 1,000 CCs anyway.
Well and truly.
Yeah.
There's Peter Allen. He's on the John Hoskins Peter Allen bike. Peter lives in Brisbane. The owner of the bike, John Hoskins, lives in Adelaide, and they get together and go racing in Top Fuel bike. Top Fuel brought to us by... And look at Peter Allen. He's away. He's on a number, leans the bike away from the centre line and puts it through the traps there.
7.39, 182.7 miles per hour.
And look at this bike. It's on a run. Steve Smith was back there. He ran an 8.2 at 153, but you'd swear he wasn't in the same race as Peter Allen.
182 miles an hour.
Very, very fast material. Peter Allen holds the top bike record, would you believe, at... no, it's been moved down by Mark Miller, I'm sorry, to a 7-1. Okay, we keep going here. We've got Greg Shepherd, rather.
The Harley-Davidson of Greg Shepherd. And again, we're talking in cubic inches with the American bike, 114 cubic inches.
And that's well over 2,000 cc's. There's Steve Kitchen. He's on a Kawasaki, 1,380 cc's. This is a turbocharged bike. Greg Shepherd, the owner of US Cycles. He's sponsored by US Cycles and Spray Chief Paints.
And Steve Kitchen is a bricklayer by trade. On the Kawasaki, turbocharged bike. 1,380 cc's, faces 114 cubic inches.
And this is top of the line in motorcycle drag racing.
I'm looking for a fuel tank. I don't see one. Can you tell me? I'll work out where the fuel tank is.
The Harley's running a low fuel tank, which looks aerodynamic. You see there, it's feeding up into the bike, so there's no problem there. Steve Kitchen, you hear the turbocharger there. They've got to keep the revs up on these turbo bikes to keep the boost up. Without that boost, there is no horsepower. Kitchen on the Kawasaki. Greg Shepherd on the Harley-Davidson. Will we see a Harley-Davidson in the final top fuel bike for the first time ever? Kitchen is out first. The turbo Kawasaki doing the better of it. And Kitchen working hard to control that bike at mid-track.
And there we go with a time of 8.44, 156.63 miles an hour.
We see Kitchen there battling the bike at mid-track. Greg Shepherd back there with a 9.1 at 139. Just couldn't quite keep up with the turbo Kawasaki. We move now into the second round of bumper-to-bumper competition eliminator. We see Debbie Reed here. She put away the top qualifier in the first round. She's out now with her A dragster. This is a fuel-injected aluminium Donovan engine car.
Now this is one fast lady, make the little old lady from Pasadena look like a little old lady. Debbie Reed in the Donovan dragster, 445 cubic inches. She's a mum, I think.
Absolutely.
And
And problems there for the Zagadlo and Sekol car. Ian Sekol was the number 2 qualifier. So I tell you, Debbie Reed is she's running the heavy hitters in this competition eliminator. She put away the number 1 qualifier, Mike Ebert, in the first round when Ebert had troubles. And here she is. She's there waiting to go to the line. Debbie Reed, no sign of Ian Sekol yet. Debbie can't wait forever. Sekol having problems getting the double C dragster fired.
Well,
Debbie Reed.
Sekol was coming forward, but it seems to be pushed back.
Here he comes. He's got it fired and underway. Ian Sekol from Sydney. Ian running a supercharged small block Chevrolet in the double C dragster class. Once more, we'll see Debbie Reed having to give away a handicap start.
And once again, we're probably talking well over 1,000 horsepower each for these vehicles, getting up around maybe 1,500.
No, not in this case, because the engine's quite small. It's only a 350cc engine for Ian Sekol. It would probably be putting out in the vicinity of 900 horsepower. Debbie Reed, I'm not sure, over 800, around the 800 to 900 horsepower as well, but she hasn't got a supercharger. It's only fuel injected.
Nevertheless, make a Formula 1 car look like a bicycle.
Oh, absolutely. There's only 0.04 of a second handicap start in this one. Debbie Reed is doing the chasing. See if you can pick that. 0.04 of a second. The 2 dragsters heading into the beams. Debbie Reed, Ian Sekol.
Just waiting down. They're both locked in. Here they go.
Debbie Reed gets out. Both run 4.4 reaction times. This is side by side. Ian Sekol does it in the deep end.
And there goes Sekol with a win of 7.89, gives him 175 miles an hour.
We see Debbie Reed here. She's gone off the boil. The the car suddenly slows. Sekol runs away with it. And Debbie Reed only 121 mile an hour, 8.35. That's far slower than a normal performance. Alan Gray with another supercharged small block car, just a little 355 Chevy.
And a burnout from the T-bucket, Alan Gray. Sponsored by Alan Way Heads, Pacific Performance. Class record for this is 7.9.
Yes, he's running that double C altered record. Getting backed up in his own tyre tracks. That's a concrete start line there, and all the black you see is from rubber. The first couple of 100 feet of the Willowbank International Raceway is concrete. It provides better traction on the start line, and it's a far more durable surface for the pounding it gets from these drag race vehicles. And you wouldn't know it's concrete when you look at it there, the amount of black tyre rubber on there.
Is that black tyre rubber actually cleaned off between meetings, or is it just left there to build up?
If it gets too thick, it can require heating and scraping, but this track's been prepared beautifully. You see there Alan Gray going forward. He's got a solo. He's on a bye run. Leaves the line hard with the front wheels in the air. A straight run in double C altered. Runs it through. And look at this.
7.79, 162.98 miles an hour. Actually under the record too by 0.1 of a second.
And I think we'll find that Alan Gray has reset the national record in double C altered. He's run hard in the first 2 rounds. And here we go. We move to Pro Stock Motorcycle. Pro Stock brought to us by Aussie Trackwear. People that produce leather racing suits for bikes. They produce fireproof gear for race car drivers and great crew uniforms. Aussie Trackwear.
Maury Allen on the Suzuki, and alongside him will be Phil Howard on the Quacker Kawasaki.
There's Maury Allen on that Suzuki. Maury Allen from Brisbane. There's Phil Bluey Howard. Phil a little bit crossed up there in the big burnout. He's come up to race the Nationals from Adelaide.
And big cubes there by motorcycle standards too, because that Kawasaki running over 1400 cc's.
Yeah, Phil Howard was the #1 qualifier. That's the #1 qualifying bike. There's John Hoskins. He's the builder of the bike, giving the instructions to his rider there. Murray Allen from Brisbane. Here they go. This is Pro Stock Motorcycle. No handicap. One flash of the amber and they're gone. It's a race to the end.
Just inching forward to lock in. Murray Allen locked in now. We've got them both locked in. And a red light.
Yeah, red light there from Phil Howard. And he is upset with himself. He sits up and he knows he's thrown it away. He was the #1 qualifier.
Yes, in fact, he really did jump.
0.08 reaction time. He's gone way, way early. The bike may have crept on the clutch, but maybe it wasn't his fault. The bike may have crept, but the end result is the top qualifier is out. Murray Allen takes the win with a 9.23.
And this time we see Twinkle Taylor coming up.
There was that replay of the start, and he left way, way early. The clean red light showing on the tree, and he's not a very happy motorcycle racer as we see him there.
Now we see Twinkle Taylor coming up in the Kawasaki, and Warren Dunn on the Suzuki. There's Twinkle Taylor in the green and white. Twinkle Taylor riding the Kawasaki. And a shot of Warren Dunn, Suzuki, almost 1,500 cc's, pushing that, 1498 to be precise.
And Warren Dunn didn't look real happy there. I'm not sure whether he had a problem with the bike, and he stepped off it. There's a problem with it. Twinkle Taylor will have a solo. Warren Dunn walks away from the bike very dejectedly. He's left it to the crew. That's the disappointment. So there's Warren Dunn. He goes away. So does his bike. Twinkle Taylor will get a solo into the next round of Pro Stock Motorcycle, the bumper-to-bump Aussie Trackwear sponsored bracket. Twinkle Taylor riding for Phase 4 Motorcycles and MTC Engineering.
On the tower side of the track in the Egypt lane, Twinkle Taylor have a good easy run here through the quarter. It's coming up now to lock in. And one light's on. Second light's on. And we're set to roll.
Twinkle Taylor uses a lot of revs on that bike. She's shifting it through hard and has a missed gear. Misses the gear and shuts it down, because on that missed gear there would have been a big, big rev. We're probably talking over 12,000 RPM. And the bike's shaking violently there.
Well, she takes a win, would you believe, with a speed of 33 miles an hour.